Order of business, call to order, we need an approval of the agenda for the November 6th, I need a motion. So moved by Richard. Second. Okay, all those in favor of the agenda, vote aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Need approval of minutes for October the 2nd.
So moved.
Richard motion.
Second.
Second, okay. All right, that takes care of order of business. Huh?
Is it gotta run?
All in favor?
Oh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Trying to keep them on their toes, Mike.
There you go.
What's on the next page? We have the staff reports. We'll start with the fire department. You're up.
All right.
I'm down. Thank you. You're the one doing the business.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Gary Kennedy with the Wichita Fire Department. Obviously here to kind of go over what has occurred in the last month in this particular DAB area. It looks like there were 4 incidents were in this area. We had a vehicle fire at 2700 block of South Exchange. There was an accidental house fire with back patio caught on fire from smoking 45 minutes prior to discovering the fire. We had one of the 1300 block of South Palisade. It's currently under investigation. There was a house fire. There was fire in the back of the structure with exposures to the north and the south of the what was on fire at the time. So crews had to stretch multiple lines to attack the fire, and they completed a search and everybody got out okay. So, and then we had the last one at 4130 East Rouse Parkway, and currently it's undetermined. It was a house fire. The fire was in the bedroom on the northeast corner of the home, and that's currently undetermined. One of the things that I'd like to talk about or touch on while I'm here is obviously our clocks were set back this week. I hope everybody remembered to change out the batteries in their smoke detectors, CO detectors, and so forth. I hope if you don't have those, I hope that you soon will acquire those and put those in your home, because I've seen firsthand the impact that a working smoke detector has in your house, as well as a CO detector, especially whenever you have furnaces and things that maybe haven't been inspected or looked at by a technician recently. Because obviously we're getting ready to get into cold season, and everybody's going to be using those. So again, we have obviously Thanksgiving coming up this month. This is November, right? Yep. So there's some cooking safety tips for Thanksgiving and beyond they put in here. Some of the notes were unattended cooking causes 53% of all reported house fires and 38% of home fire injuries, and is a leading cause of 18% of home fire deaths. So some of the tips that we put out there are stay in the kitchen when you're cooking so you can keep an eye on the food. Stay home when cooking your turkey and check on it frequently. Keep children away from the stove. Kids should stay at least 3 feet away from the stove. Make sure kids stay away from hot food and liquids. The steam or splashing vegetables, gravy, or coffee could cause serious burns. I've seen that happen. Be sure electrical cords from an electric knife, coffee maker, plate warmer, or mixer are not dangling off the counter within easy reach of a child. Keep matches and utility lighters out of the reach of children. Never leave children alone in a room with a lit candle. That's very important as well. I've seen that happen too. And make sure your smoke alarms are working. Test them by pushing the test button. The other thing too that I want to point out with happens sometimes in this time of year whenever we're doing the turkeys and such is if you use a deep fryer to fry your turkey, make sure that you put it away from the structure so that you're not risking catching your house, garage, fence, those types of things on fire, and always make sure that it's thawed completely. If you put a frozen turkey in a fryer, you will be impressed by what happens. So.
Becomes alive.
It does come alive. That is pretty much the nuts and bolts of what I had to go over tonight. Does anybody have any questions for me that I might be able to address?
You have people going through your academy now.
Yes, we do. We have, I have that note somewhere. Where to go? I read it back to the second page. Yes, I messed all these up. So. Oh, yeah, Recruit Academy 2024-1 started on September 16th. I don't recall how many recruits are in that class, but it usually runs 12 to 15 weeks. Yeah, I mean, that's. And that varies obviously depending on what's going on and so forth. So they should be running along pretty well, right? Oh, yes, sir.
It's a comment that you need to add to your little list, and that's if you've got kids or not kids, if you've got people living in the house, you need to practice a fire drill.
Yeah.
Tell you a story, 1409 South Water. There was a fire, smoke alarm went off. Both of the guys left and went out. One went out the back door and one went out the front door. The one couldn't find the other one. He went back in. Luckily, he didn't die, but they drug him out. This was several years ago. So I tell all my tenants, have a fire drill.
Yeah, have some type of plan to be able to get out of the house safely. One thing that's, I guess I could add to that is that there's been a kind of a recommendation that's come about in the recent years of sleeping with your door shut.
Yeah.
And that I've seen the door shield a lot of rooms from active fire and the smoke and give people more time to either get out a window or give time for us to get in there and get them out.
Any other questions from the staff? Thank you, sir. I think that's it.
All right, thank you.
And it is fire season along the corridor, especially people warming fires, and you guys are going into a lot of sketchy buildings, so we appreciate everything you guys do, and please stay safe out there.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up is the police department. Are they represented? There they are. And thank you for being here and getting on.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Officer Paul John, Wichita Police Department, Community Policing for the South. Been here for a month now. So I'm reporting for the DAB 3 area for Part 1 crime and Part 2 crime. This was my report. Okay, here it is. So Part 1 crime consists of homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault. Part 1 violent crime, that's what we consider it. It's gone up 7% from its month-to-month comparison from 10.9 to from September 11th to 10/9/2000. So
You said it was up 7%
it's up 7%.
in the violent stuff.
Yeah. And then the Part 1 property crime, which consider burglary, larceny from auto theft, that's gone up 3%. So this is just the District 3 area. So I don't know which area is gone up or not until I look more in detail about it. So as we go into the holiday season, of course, Thanksgiving's coming around. Just remember, if you guys do Christmas shopping or any kind of shopping at all, there's could be a lot of scams out there. Just be careful who it is. Phone call, text message about, hey, this is so-and-so. Just make sure you contact the right person. Don't click on that phone number because there's scams around there. You miss a payment or click on this phone number and then you go to another area, which isn't that. So also, if you're shopping, just make sure you lock your door. don't let anybody be seen, no president, anybody be seen in plain view. Try to put it in the trunk if you can, or take it with you, so that they don't, burglar or people that are trying to steal your stuff, see it and break your window, and then now you got broken window, now you got other stuff you gotta worry about. Garage door also, we had an incident where somebody came home, left all the presents in the car, garage door was up, came out, looked for it, all the presents gone. So just make sure that you get in there, take all your stuff out and close your garage door. Just be safety wise. So other than that, you guys got any questions for me? Yes, sir.
I've reached out to Patrick Malloy a couple
Okay.
times. I patrol east or south.
Control east, control east.
I've been requesting that he come to our meetings at Hilltop Manor.
Okay.
Or I'd also like to see if I can get the police blotter to know what to, if he can't make it, that I can explain to my members what's going on.
Okay.
The concept
So
we got
you would
going.
have to contact Control East,
Okay.
contact Control East on that. I don't know their phone number, but on the website.
I've got it. I've contacted a couple times, but
Just
it's
contact them and just say, hey, I need to talk to, Officer Malloy. See if he come and just have the, and if he doesn't respond, then just keep on calling.
Yeah,
And
just
see,
keep doing that.
yeah, just keep seeing if he can come to the other meeting.
Yeah, I've actually emailed him a couple times. I've actually little replaced.
And just,
He did give me a breakdown for one evening here, and I just kind of like to know what's going on so we can fill our members. We have a lot of crime in our neighborhood,
right,
and we just want to address it and know what we need to do. You know,
yes, and he would have, talk to Control East.
Yeah.
And they'll hopefully help you out in that.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Any other questions any questions from the public? Thank you, sir.
Officer Thomas, he has just recently come over from Patrol West.
Yes, sir. I was Patrol West for 3 years, 12 and 13 beat, so excited to come out, Patrol South and hang out with you guys.
And he's a native Southsider, grew up in Plainview as well, and is a chili pepper eating champion, although I think it cost him a little bit this last time around.
It did. Two Carolina Reaper.
Oh, my.
The hardest pepper known to man. That's what I had to take.
You come to the good side of town, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't hot enough out west, so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Library.
Right. My name is Robin Doster. I'm the community services librarian from the Walters branch in District 3. We hosted another all ages game night yesterday, and the last for 2024 is going to be on December 3rd from 4:30 to 6:30. Our branch also has a family story time every Tuesday this November from 11:30 to 12, where children can develop literacy skills through active listening, singing, and movement. And then tomorrow, November 7th, there's going to be a prickly porcupine craft, and it's a drop-in craft for ages 4 to 11, and the supplies will be there from 1 to 5. The adult spelling bee, which started last year as an annual event, will be held on the 8th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Advanced Learning Library. There's still time to register you or your team if you haven't already. You can go to wichitalibrary.org/events or call 316-261-8500. November is also the annual Kansas Reads to Preschoolers Month. We're going to be hosting a kickoff celebration on the 9th at Tanganyika Wildlife Park, and that's from 10:30 to 11:30. They're going to do a reading of the book, How Do You Hug a Porcupine, for ages 3 to 5. And afterwards, you can meet a real porcupine and other animal ambassadors from Tanganyika. The Walters branch will also have another community craft circle for ages 15 and up from 4:30 to 6:30 next Wednesday. That's November 13th. We're going to have one more craft circle on December 10th, and that's going to be our last adult craft program for the time being. And then last but not least, our November Dock and Talk is going to promote National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. It's November 26th from 5 to 6:45, and we're going to be showing the film Alzheimer's Every Minute Counts, which is an urgent wake-up call about the national threat posed by Alzheimer's disease. And we will then have a short discussion following the film. And that's all I've got.
Any questions from the dam? Any questions from the public?
Okay.
Thanksgiving hours.
Thanksgiving hours, that's a good question.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
I believe you're closing at 5 the day before. I was at Deb 5 on Monday, so I
Right.
had to update there.
I think that sounds right. It's 5 the day before
And
and then
then
close
not
the day of.
open
Yeah.
Thanksgiving or the day after.
And are you closed Monday? Veterans Day? Are you closed Monday?
We are closed on Monday, but
All my days off and you're closed.
I'm sorry.
Anybody else have questions? If not, thank you. Public work.
Good evening, I'm Paul Gunzelman, city engineer, and I have key projects going on in District 3 tonight. The I-135 sanitary sewer relocation project is still ongoing. There's some traffic control on Southeast Boulevard, I believe yet, reduced to 1 lane. We'll start getting into the neighborhoods. We'll let the neighborhoods know once we start getting into those places. So estimated completion of the project is second quarter of 2025. The improvements to LW Clap Park, master plan still is ongoing. All of the bridges have been completed. The playground and dog park have been under construction for the past couple months. Estimated completion date of the dog park is later this year. I know when I drove by last time, they had the fence up and stuff, working on the parking lot. So that is ongoing. The playground off of Mount Vernon is in areas well underway. I know we will have some surfacing to put down on the playground area, and that will be weather dependent. So we'll still kind of see what the weather will do for that, but still tracking on that as far as I know. And I think temperatures have to be certain degrees for a number of hours for that to set. So we'll keep tabs on that. There is a Dirt Street paving project that is on Poplar Drive south of Pawnee. We anticipate starting that soon, towards later November, early December. There's quite a bit of work on the BNR project at the various plants. Some of that we're getting the foundations and stuff getting poured for some of those, so for the structures. So that is all moving forward, but that is a multi-year project. So overall completion of all the improvements are in 2027. The 2024 pavement preservation program, most of that has been completed. We do have some concrete street repair that we will be bidding November 15th in multiple phases. So we'll bid the phase November 15th and November 22nd. And those projects will include George Washington Boulevard from Hillside to Menlo, as well as Washington Street from Lincoln to Morris. And then there's some other localized repairs that Memphis Paving is a contractor, and they're developing a schedule, and those are in the area of Hydraulic and Tulsa. The Mount Vernon projects from Southeast Boulevard to Oliver. We've had some office check plans. We've made comments on those. So we will be bidding that, getting the bid package together. That project will most likely start after the first year. However, we will continue to work with USD 259 so that we have minimal impact to their traffic while they're in session. So we will be replacing, as part of that project, we will be replacing the traffic signals at George Washington Boulevard and Mount Vernon so that we can extend the mass lines out to the center of the roadway for left turn indications. And that is what I have for District 3. We have a few projects outside that we've been still coordinating with KDOT on, K96 expansion, as well as East Kellogg. And one item I wanted you to know that anybody who travels up near the North Junction westbound, KDOT, maybe you've seen it on the news. The KDOT will be closing westbound K96 traffic to I-135 nightly from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. through the month of November. And that is needed to remove some of the current structures that are there. They are trying to have, traffic back open by 7 o'clock in the morning so that people can do that. And then the hub or the transit facility, we had broke ground on that October 14th, gave them a notice to proceed on, or broke ground October 11th, notice to proceed on October 14th, and they've been clearing the site and getting ready to do some pier work for the structure itself as well. And that is my update. Are there any questions?
I heard about this secondhand. I'm sure Michael correct me if I speak out of line. Was there an arborist visiting Flat Park today? Was today?
Saturday,
Huh?
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Are you familiar with this program? See, that's, it's, okay, I got a source that is involved. The arborists, they're gonna patrol the park and have a lecture, point out the heritage trees and stuff like that. But how do you find out about it? Because if I had to, this person has.
It's on Facebook.
Huh?
It's on Facebook when I saw it.
What is it?
It could probably be a part of the park. Is it part of the park?
No, it's a separate group.
Oh, it's
not
the
a city.
ICT trees.
Yeah,
Look
ICT
them up.
trees.
Not a city sponsored event, so we wouldn't be the ones like explaining.
Yeah,
what's
it'd be
happening.
how we live in the neighborhood of the park, if anybody wants to.
Yeah. Yeah, they asked me to speak at it middle of last week, so that's about when I found out, so.
Maybe they don't want a crowd.
No, they did it last year. I think they try and do at least one park a year. And I can speak to it at the end of the
So
week.
what's the date, exactly what day?
Saturday, it's a Saturday
Right.
at 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock, okay. Everybody can find out about it, you might want.
Yeah, I'll fill in some more
Okay.
details at the end.
This coming Saturday? Any other questions for public works?
After breakfast, yeah.
Just a quick question. If I see a street that needs an overlay really, really bad, how do I get that on your agenda, on your radar?
Send me an email.
Okay.
And I'll get with our maintenance crews. We're working on, we have finalized the list for 2025. I have not seen that formal list yet. We will be presenting that to city council. We had it on the agenda for yesterday, but we pulled it, knowing that it was gonna be a long meeting.
Bad idea.
But I think we are scheduled tentatively to present the 2025 OP3 program to city council December 3rd. And then, if it's not on that list, then we can get with maintenance and just kind of see where it is in the program. So if you let me know what street that is, and we can track that down for you.
Richard, you have anything?
Where exactly is the playground gonna be in Flat Park?
Right off the parking lot.
Right off of Mount Vernon, where the parking lot. is.
No, it's
I'm
off of
sorry, Harry, right off of Harry.
Off of Harry, okay, cause you said Mount Vernon and I kept
Sorry.
hearing Harry and.
Yeah, sorry, Harry.
That's the
Harry.
exclusive playground for adults.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
You can
sorry.
see it growing now. It's pretty cool.
It is, yeah, they have the, yeah,
You can see it from area, they're doing a lot of work.
okay, yeah. It'll be a-
Any other questions?
Council member said it's gonna be a nice brick playground.
The school wanted to know why you didn't put it a little closer to the school.
No, they actually, because we looked at something like that, but even just to walk just barely off of the school property, they have to have.
Yeah.
Permission slips. So it wouldn't have mattered if we would have put it, 5 blocks away. They have to get a permission slip signed every time they want to go try it.
The school playground up at 6 o'clock and there's a lot of people want to get in there and play, so that walk up and down below. So All good.
Any other comments or questions? I guess that's, I'm Lord, sorry, I didn't see him.
I have a question about the parking at Clap Park when they're having events. Who's earning that money? They charge $5 a car last week for that.
Wichita State.
Wichita State, that's who made the money.
We've already, we didn't discuss it, we just found out about, which, that didn't go to the guy, at least.
They filled the parking lot up, they're selling all that grass out there too, at $5 a pop.
Wichita State, it was 2 months ago, when the last meeting, I didn't see any signing saying $5 a car, the last time I drove by when they had a big cross-country run, so I don't know,
They stopped me, charged me.
because they were parking at the Genesis, they were parking at the old cafeteria for a while and then walking in.
They still were, all those places were packed full Saturday, and the parking lot and the grass.
Now, I don't know if Wichita State got all the money out and they maybe gave a percentage to Doug because he is involved, but it was Wichita State.
That's not aware of that.
That's not worth the, our land here and someone else making money on that.
It's amazing what you learn when you come here.
Yes.
The grass will be torn up there, man.
Any comments or questions?
You saw them parking on the ground?
They do, it's, they treat it as
So the
like
parking lot,
flow
the grass to the
overflow.
west of it there, the old, said the restaurant and Genesis was all completely full.
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna just drive up there and take pictures and they wouldn't even let me do that without paying. Only $5, but.
We'll talk to Parks.
You live right across the street from that park, you can drive it over there anyway.
Actually, I was just going by, I seen something there, so I thought I'd whip up in there.
You live right across the street.
I do live right across, I don't walk.
I was thinking about what you
Why is
said.
he driving
That's his business.
I walk over there all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, the other thing about that too, the grass over in that area, there used to be a big mound, maybe it's still there. In Clap Park by the school. That thing is covered with these little stickers that get, and they burrow into the dog's paws or into us. And that, my dog Happy got one in her paw, this past Saturday. So that's how I realized that they were all the way over there by the dog park now. I don't know if there's anything you can do if you want to make sure there's some kind of weed
You can at
control.
least spray that,
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
Spray the dog parks for sure.
Right, make sure it doesn't creep over.
Right.
I discovered those on that hill because I had my sandals on, no socks, and I stepped into it.
Oh.
That was not pleasant.
So it's not happy about it, Richard.
Well, yes.
Neither one of them were
You
happy.
can watch barefoot. That part.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
On the public agenda. And the no scheduled items on number 5. That mean off agenda,
Yeah, number 6 is you asked, public if anybody wants to.
you need, if you have something you wanted to address to the public or to the tab 3, you have 5 minutes to. Before we shut it down.
So.
So and nobody's off agenda, okay. The new business. Part 7. It's a Metropolitan Area Planning Commission will present.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Zevenberg, with the Planning Department. The first zoning item before you tonight is zone 2448. It is located at 1650 South Main. The applicant is requesting a zone change from the current zoning, which is TF3 2-family to MF18 multifamily residential. And they're looking to, that property is currently developed as a duplex and it has a detached garage in the back of the property. And they're looking to convert the garage into an additional dwelling unit. So in order to get 3 dwelling units on the site, they need to go to a multifamily certification. The staff report has a bunch of details about the changes in development standards. It's all fairly similar to what is currently done right now. They will have to meet some requirements regarding screening and making sure they have enough space for the additional parking and things like that. Overall, staff is recommending approval. When it comes to conformance with the plans and policies, the comprehensive plan identifies it As appropriate for residential uses, that's the wide variety of residential, including multifamily. If we zoom in a little bit closer, it is within the South Central Neighborhood Plan, which is one of the most recent plans we have, and had a lot of public involvement. And it identifies the site appropriate for low density residential. Says the predominant land use in the neighborhood is low density residential, which consists of single family detached dwellings that are typically developed with a gross density of less than 10 dwelling units per acre. Accessory dwelling units and duplexes could be appropriate in locations where compatibility with surrounding single family uses can be maintained. Those suggesting for low density, we find that the fact that they're wanting to convert an existing structure, keep the duplex and convert the detached garage to a dwelling unit, makes it appropriate as opposed to like developing an apartment complex. The site is small enough that even if they were to try to scrape the site, they're not necessarily going to get a large structure on there anyway. So we still find that it's fairly compatible with the low density residential in the area, making it in conformance with that plan as well. The Places for People plan encourages the diversity of housing options within the established central area to help encourage or attract new residents to the area as well. So again, staff is recommending approval. This went to Planning Commission on October 24th. They recommended approval 12-0. We haven't heard any public comment about this so far, and I can.
Any questions from there? Any questions from the public? You get a motion?
Well, there's no one from SOCI here, right? No one from, what is the name of it? Icebox Housing? Yeah.
It's already been approved. by the-
Where are they going to park? Is there
So
gonna be
they-
off-street parking for them?
Right, so they can utilize the driveway, there's space next to the garage, they only really need to provide one additional space. Looking at it, they do have, if the dwelling unit above the garage goes above the garage, they can utilize space inside the garage as well.
Yeah, because that's part of the problem they have down in that area now, is sometimes the parking problem.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that they can utilize the garage now, so they're not getting rid of the garage, they're just wanting to go upward?
Possibly,
Because if they get rid of the garage, won't they have to come up with 3 parking spaces?
yes, but they can utilize other places on the site as well. And if they're not able to park it, then they have to just keep it as a 2 dwelling site and not actually add the 3rd. That happens during the building review process. So for the building permit to convert to a 3rd dwelling unit, if they can't come up with the parking, they either have to ask for a reduction, either by an administrative approval, which we can do up to 25% of reduction, which would take away one of them, and they would have to provide 2. Or if they needed a further reduction, they could come and ask for a variance. But that kind of just gets determined during the building and construction review when they get a building permit.
One more question. From the pictures, the structure doesn't look real stable. Has it been checked for stability to see if it will?
Again, during the building and construction review, in order to get a building permit, they will have all necessary inspections and things like that before they can convert it to a dwelling and get occupancy.
Sorry.
Nope, fair question.
For parking, they have to pay all that too?
Yes, parking would have to
The
be
whole thing have to
paid
be paid,
wherever a parking space is.
and barriers around it, fencing and all that stuff.
They have to provide fencing around the property going to multifamily. Yep.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? So we need a motion to approve.
Yeah, anybody can make a motion, whichever motion.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
What did you move to do?
All those
Approve.
approve? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next.
Are you gonna do the next one too?
Yes, I am.
What a versatile you got.
Need a drink of water or anything? Cookie?
Cookies back there, everybody, there's cookies back there.
My second dab this week, so.
Oh, okay.
Good, does
What's on the
anybody else
list?
have cookies at your dad?
No, they don't.
We stand apart.
Yes. The second one is zone 2450. This is also a zone change request. It's located at 1203 South Topeka. It's the southwest corner of Topeka and Lincoln Street. They're requesting a zone change from the current zoning, which is MF 29 multifamily residential, to GO general office district. Their intended use on this is a commercial parking area. I'll give Rebecca a second here. The property to the east, on the east side of Topeka, is the Child Advocacy Center. And my understanding is the construction of the parking lot is to provide additional parking for the Child Advocacy Center across the street. We do have the agent for the applicant here. If you have any questions about the proposed project, he might be able to delve into some regarding possible need for the additional parking lot. So this is a proposed site plan that they're again proposing for how the parking lot might look. The current, if you look at a current aerial of the site, you'll see that there was 3 dwelling units on the site. Those dwellings have been demolished. The site no longer has any dwellings on it. And they would be looking to have an entrance off of Topeka, and it would cycle through one way to the paved alley, and then they could exit onto Lincoln. Staff is recommending denial. I'll get into that in a little bit when we go through the conformance to plans and policies as to why staff is recommending denial on it. I can turn my page here.
Any questions?
I had to turn my page here.
So
So with a parking lot, and even just going to GO, general office zoning, even if they didn't do a parking lot, but they wanted to do office uses or multifamily uses within GO, they are required to provide screening along the south boundary line because that's a residential property to the south. They're also going to be required to provide landscaping along Topeka and Lincoln for the landscape code for the parking lot. Anytime you have a new parking lot, you have to do parking lot screening, which is like planting shrubs and things like that. Little caveat to that, we have been working with the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department regarding current drought conditions and possibly providing some delay in the requirement of planting new plants, knowing to establish new plants. When you have logging restrictions and things like that, doesn't go very well. That's just an aside in all general projects, but all that to say, we will be keeping tallies of projects that have to provide plantings, but they're essentially getting a pass for right now. We will follow up with them when drought conditions improve, because we're gonna say they will improve. So anyway, GO would allow for additional uses other than a parking lot. They're just choosing to use it as parking lot. In the current zoning of MF 29, they could have asked for conditional use for something called ancillary parking, and that basically means a parking lot that's accessory to a nearby use, and it would have to be across the street or something like that. The difference is in residential zoning districts, you cannot have parking in your front setback or your street side setback. So that would mean the first 25 feet on Topeka and the 20, I believe it's 15 or 20 feet along Lincoln, could not have any part of a parking space in it. And so that doesn't really work when you have a small site that small. So that's why they're going to general office, and they can do commercial parking area, which they don't have to be accessory to the use next door. It can just be a parking lot for the sake of the parking lot, but it accomplishes the same thing. So that's why we're actually seeking a zone change versus just a conditional use within the existing zoning. The context around it is a mix of residential, civic, and commercial land uses. Property to the north is zoned general commercial and B multifamily. It's developed with a parking area related to a church. There's that church that takes up like an entire city block. It's front onto Broadway, but all of its parking is along Topeka. And then there's to the northeast is the B zoning, and it's a duplex. East of the property is general office, and it's the Child Advocacy Center. To the south is MF 29, and it's a single family dwelling. And to the west is general commercial, and it's an undeveloped parcel that fronts Lincoln, but then it's commercial uses that front South Broadway. So it's just kind of a mixed bag of uses in this area. The property has access to East Lincoln as well as South Topeka. South Topeka as well as South Broadway on the or South Emporia on the other side of the Child Advocacy Center do have on-street parking available. What is unclear to staff, where it wasn't necessarily in their application, and maybe the agent can clarify this, is whether or not this parking lot is being used to meet the required parking spaces they're to provide. I heard kind of through the grapevine that the Child Advocacy Center is looking at doing an addition or an expansion onto their property. So that's what, it's just some questions staff doesn't know. If they're not required off-street parking spaces, then parking can be utilized on-street. The future land use map within the comprehensive plan identifies the site as appropriate for residential uses. So this is where we're getting into why staff is recommending denial. Though your staff kind of agrees that a low density residential isn't necessarily the most appropriate along a 4-lane arterial like Lincoln, but GEO could accommodate multifamily uses and things like that, which could be more appropriate given the kind of the mixed bag development that's in the area already. But where we get to with why we're recommending denial of a parking lot is when we get into locational guidelines as well as the places for people plan, which encourages maximizing the investment that the city's done in public infrastructure. That's not just like streets and sidewalks, but that's also like water lines and sewer lines and things like that, to where the highest and best use of a property within the, especially in central part of the city, is if it's developed with a building, because we have water and sewer and all these services that have already been put in place to accommodate development. And so when you take buildings off of property and just pave it over in its parking lot, that's not maximizing the land that we have available where uses already exist or where infrastructure already exists. And so that's particularly why we're recommending denial. In the South Central plan, it also calls for low density residential as well. Again, low density residential isn't necessarily something that's most appropriate along the 4-lane arterial. Higher density residential could be a little bit more appropriate in the location. But again, looking to maximize public infrastructure that is already there. When it comes to other types of infrastructure, we talked about on-street parking that's available on Topeka and South Emporia. There's also Wichita Transit that goes on Lincoln and Broadway at the location. So there's a multitude of other options. And so staff's perspective is, if they're looking to just provide a parking lot, there's other ways that they could get people to the site instead of having to have another parking, which encourages people to drive. In addition, the Child Advocacy Center has a whole portion of the south portion of its property that is not developed, where if they could possibly extend their parking lot south instead of taking a lot next door just for a small parking lot.
Why
So
would they want to do that anyway? Why would they want to do that anyway?
So that's the basis for staff's recommendation of denial. We have not heard public comment on this. This has not gone to planning commission yet. It is going tomorrow. And so I don't have any information as to what planning commission's perspective is on this. And so with that, I can stand for questions that you might have for me. Again, we have Jay Cook with Bob, who's representing the application. Yes, ma'am.
Do they currently have a parking lot at all? Or is it all
Yes, they
like
do.
just all
The
street
aerial
parking?
image we had didn't go as far south. Essentially, their building is here and they've got a parking lot down here.
It's the old Lincoln Elementary School.
Yes.
I went there for about 1 year. And so when I walked through the school with them, I remembered instantly where the principal's office was.
And with the plaque hang.
Might as well have a plaque outside it, right?
Are there any other questions from the board? Dan?
Yeah, the residence just to the south, is that currently occupied?
I don't know if it's unsure. It looks like it
It
is.
looks
from
like it, yeah.
When you have cars in front of it and. Yeah,
And did you say that structure, that there's nothing on the property right now?
so yeah, on the current aerial image, the subject sites in the kind of the teal box, it
Yeah.
shows a house with like a
That's
detached
gone.
garage in the back. Those, it was a single family home and a duplex in the back, so those are gone.
Okay.
Yep, it's completely scraped.
So-
And you can actually see on the aerial image, the portion of the existing parking lot for the Child Advocacy Center
Yeah,
as well.
they got a lot.
And what you don't see is just when you go south of the parking lot, there's more space on the property that is not occupied by anything right now.
Okay. I was just, I guess I was gonna, and you couldn't, I don't think you can answer this, but one of my concerns would be that they wanted to expand in the future, and I wouldn't want that to be compromised by not having parking required, but if they have a lot there, they have required amount of spaces, right? So
Yeah.
they would be able to make it up.
I'm at point of where I'm at loss. Do we have a motion to table it till the planning commission does something, or?
Nope, so you're going to move it to
Is there-
questions from the
we-
public.
We could hear from the agent, if you wanted to
Yeah,
hear from the
I'm
agent.
just trying to clarify.
I've got to finish with the DAB first.
Yep, finish with your DAB questions, and then you're gonna ask the agent up to talk, and then we'll have questions from you all, and then questions from the public.
If they do want to develop more, can they go upward instead of outward?
Like upward in the building? Possibly, I don't know how tall their building is now, it would have to be based, like Geo, I think can go up to like 45 feet, but again, like, I'm not really sure to, didn't really look that far into it, because we just kind of focused on parking lot across the street. So, yeah, I don't know what their possible expansion plans are.
Any other
We'll
questions?
get to the public in a little
Okay.
bit, it's gonna take a couple of rounds.
I'm having a hard time telling from the aerial image, but on Topeka, on the east side of Topeka,
Mhm.
there's kind of those two like big
Sorry?
stretches, are
These
those
are-
parking spaces?
Yes, those are
Okay,
parking.
I was curious.
Any other questions? Dan,
Along with all that.
any questions?
You want to hear from Jay?
We don't meet the public until after the agent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
So my name is Jay Cook. I'm with Bachman Company, 315 South Ellis for the record. I know you all have seen this, but I'm gonna real quick pass this out. These are the golden rules that zoning changes are based on. I don't know if you've been given it before, but yeah. I wanna have it in front of you so I can kind of go over this.
Thank you.
Spent 9 hours with the Honorable Mr. Hoheisel yesterday at the city council meeting, so
Well, you gotta leave early.
we're both left. Yeah, I got to leave earlier than you did, but I don't know how long you were there. Anyways.
10 hours and 4 minutes.
No,
No
10
one
hours-
was counted.
10 hours and 4 minutes.
I had you for 9. So I don't wanna come off adversarial because I have a lot of respect for Philip and the Metropolitan Area Planning Department, but obviously as the agent for the applicant, I am gonna argue our idea of how we meet the golden rules. So if I sound adversarial or mean, Philip can be mad at me later, but I have all the utmost respect for him and what he does for the city. So just to start off, this property is owned by the Child Advocacy Center. Recently, the Child Advocacy Center has been in a capital improvement project, has $10 million for an expansion. And we're gonna expand south. The height requirement for GEO, just so to answer Philip's question, is 60 feet, but on an old building like that, you can't really go up without spending a lot of money, just to ensure everything underneath can hold it up. So we're gonna be expanding to the south. The reason why we're asking for a parking lot on this particular lot that we own is as we expand, we will be meeting maximum parking requirements, off-street parking requirements on the primary lot. And we want to have this 20 lot and ancillary for overflow and staff parking, things like that. And I'll get to that in a little bit. So the Child Advocacy Center is for children who are suffering from abuse. Great service to the city, to Sedgwick County, in what they do, and they're able to expand their services. They also house the Wichita Police Investigative Unit for Child Crimes. So there's a lot that goes on in this building, and the fact that they're going to be able to expand, I believe they got a $2 million grant from the city of Wichita, I think, or something of that nature. So there's a large investment from the city to keep this going. What we're asking for simply is the ability to use this recently purchased property for a parking lot. So right now, MF 29 is what we go to the zoning page, I'm not sure what page that is. MF 29 is what we're currently zoned. Right now in MF 29, we would be allowed to build a 5-dwelling apartment right there on that tiny little lot. So while single family might be, as Philip said, not the best use with a 4-lane arterial street, you could build a pretty decent sized apartment complex on that or something like that. But I wanted to go through the golden factors that I just handed you. Starting with the first one, the zoning uses, character of the neighborhood. I think Bill did a pretty good job with that. This is a very factual based description of the area. There's a lot of commercial zoning around that. The brown is B, multifamily residential. It's the highest density residential you can have in the city of Wichita. One of the things that I want to point out is we're not asking for much different than what's there. Just north of the lot we're talking about is a 2.5 acre parking lot. So the character of the neighborhood is a mixed use with some commercial uses, and there's also parking area in that as well. So we agree with the description that the staff has put together there, because it's definitely fact-based and we have no problem with that. The second golden rule is the suitability of the subject property for the uses it's restricted. So how is the property currently zoned and what are those uses? So it is currently zoned MF 29. As I said, you can put 29 units per acre. We could, if you do the math, it's a little over 5 dwelling units if somebody wants a half a dwelling unit, but would allow 5 dwelling units on that piece of property. There's the staff report states that limited number of residential, and there's some civic and public uses you could do, duplex and multifamily housing. So are the uses suitable given surrounding zoning and site criteria? I'm not sure for a 5 dwelling unit apartment if it would be, or even a multifamily building. And then the question of, are the current allowed uses the only ones which might be appropriate? We tend to believe that no, there may be a better use for this piece of property, which is why I'm here. Golden rule number 3, the extent to which removal of restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. So can the uses allowed in the requested district be good neighbors to existing development? No better neighbor than not having a neighbor at all, in my opinion, and a parking lot is not a neighbor. Staff report states that approval of the request may have detrimental effects due to light and noise pollution, but states that screening and lighting standards are designed to help mitigate those. So that's kind of a mixed review there of, it might have an issue with light and noise, but there are things in place for the city that will mitigate those issues. One thing I will point out is there are street lights that are directly adjacent to the property to the west, so they probably already have some light pollution. And this parking lot will be used mostly during working hours, so it's not going to be a lot of nighttime traffic through this parking lot. Number 4 is the length of time the subject property has been vacant. One of the things that this leaves at it, the structures were demolished. What's not there is that they were demolished due to a fire that was beyond repair, from what I'm told. So it's the Child Advocacy Center, they didn't buy the lot and then tear the buildings down. There was a fire. They saw an opportunity to expand a little bit to that west side, tore the buildings down, and now it's just vacant. So that is a fact that it is definitely not there anymore, but kind of leaves out the reason why. Golden rule number 5, relative gain to public health, safety, and welfare. Staff says that going to a parking area could have a detrimental impact on the public welfare by removing land from the ability to be developed in such a way that maximizes the public investment in infrastructure. Denial may result in loss of use or enjoyment of the property for the applicant. One of the reasons why we're looking to add a parking lot over there, and if you'll go back to the aerial, I kind of want to show you the main reason. If there is a case where a child is being brought in for an abuse case, they are typically brought in on the east side of the building and the suspect brought in on the west side of the building so as to not further the trauma possibly to the child from seeing that suspect. So when you have an area over here where you could have police officers bring in a suspect in a child abuse case, we don't want employees or people visiting the site to not have a place to go, which is why this area, we believe, would be a good parking area for an overflow parking or maybe staff parking to keep this area clear for its use of allowing police officers to bring in possible suspects and children to stay on the east side. So that is really for the welfare of the children that are going to the advocacy center. So number 6, the conformance to the adopted plans. This is the tricky one because Philip did mention 3 separate plans. I don't know which one takes precedence, but I'm going to focus on the South Central plan because that's the one that you have in your packet. And if you'll go to page 11, and I'll put this down a couple pages. The South Central plan states, as Philip did, that this is for single family residential or excuse me, low density residential. What you don't have in your packet is the definition of low density residential, which, as Philip said with the last case, detached dwellings that are typically developed at a gross density of less than 10 dwelling units per acre. So this is where I have a little issue with this plan. So the last case that you just approved would be 3 dwelling units on 0.18 acres. That equals out to be about 17 dwelling units per acre. So this plan says we should stay at 10, yet we've approved what it amounts to be 17. So staff is not overseeing or not overlooking that requirement and then stating that ours doesn't meet it maliciously, I'm sure, but as it stands with what you just approved, that really didn't meet the intent of the neighborhood plan anyway. So it's not that 2 wrongs make a right, but it's how exactly do we enforce this for some one way and see it another way for our use. This is also an issue in the planning world that we call a regulatory misalignment, where the plan states this should be low density residential. But based off of the zoning of MF 29, we can definitely put in more compact residential or mixed use residential and have far more than what the actual plan describes as low density. So even from Jump Street, it doesn't really match the zoning. So we're kind of wanting just to change that to a GO zoning and then have a parking lot for our uses. Impact on proposed development. So on your golden rules, this one, are water and sewer available for extension? I don't think that's an issue there. Are roads impacted, and can other community facilities handle the increased development? We're actually taking out development, so it's not going to have an effect on community facilities. As Philip stated, there's no opposition that we've heard, even from the neighbor directly to the south that would be most affected by this. No opposition there. And number 9, of course, is the staff's opinion. And we've heard that. So that's about all the spiel that I have. Again, I don't want to sound adversarial, just arguing for my client. Please don't think of me as a bad guy. I do respect Philip. We get along really well, and I don't want to make him feel like I'm bad. So I would love to answer questions now. Yes.
Okay, then I'm looking at this and I see parking on both sides of that. Why not develop that instead of doing your expansion? Why not expand there?
We go to the aerial so I could kind of. So you're saying expand down into here?
No, expand in the green area where you want to put the
Oh.
parking lot and then put the parking lot down in the other area. That way you'd still have your water and sewer already there.
There's not a lot that well, first of all, we'd have to get a rezone anyway to do some type of commercial use. So I'd be asking for the same thing. It might meet the plan a little bit better because it is a commercial use, as Philip stated. There is some commercial use that would be good for this area according to the South Central Development Plan. But to keep everything on site would be building out what we have. And with the addition of square footage, that adds a requirement of parking. For one parking spot per three, wait, no, per
333.
333 square
Yeah,
feet.
something like that.
Yeah, it's a weird number, but you have to have so many spots per square footage, and with square footage we're adding, we're gonna be very limited. I think we're gonna meet it. I'm not gonna sit up here and lie to you. I think we would meet the parking requirement. But having that overflow is gonna ensure that not only do we have that parking requirement, but we also have a little extra on the top.
Any other questions from Dan?
What is their future expansion? Is it more offices that they're gonna do? It's
I'm
gonna
not
cost-
100% sure. So right now, like I said, they house the Wichita Police Investigative Unit for Child Crimes. I think the expansion may be to be able to add more personnel, the services. They might add some services, I'm not really sure, but
I was
from
just
what it
thinking-
sounds like
I was
is,
just thinking of the way they had the layout.
yeah, and as awful as this sounds, because I think the most heinous crime is a crime on a child. I hate to think that they just need more room for
Right,
more child abuse cases, but
right. Yeah,
they have the money to expand and the needs, so that's what we're doing. We're trying to do.
I just think it would be, it could be part of your argument though, that if they were expanding some for child services,
Yeah,
they could not put it there.
right. Could not put it in the lot that we're
Teal
talking about,
square.
right. No, so what it would be expanded for wouldn't just be office use, it would be for the bringing in the child that's suffered abuse, bringing in the suspect, I'm not sure all the process that goes into that, but it would be for the actual operational use, not just office space.
So
Sure.
if the suspects are gonna be brought in on that side, the same side as the extended parking lot potentially, is the staff and everybody gonna be safe going through that side?
Yeah, so what it would be is, right now, staff, parks, where they can on whichever side of the building that they work on. If they move up here, it'll be with police escort that the suspects are coming in. I only state that because they want to keep it separate from where they bring in the abused child. So I'm not saying they don't care about the safety of staff, but they are escorted in by police, so they are safe. It's just wanting to keep them away from possible future trauma to the child,
Mhm.
or further trauma, not future.
Any other questions? Open it to the public.
He answered them.
Oh, he did, okay.
I guess there's more questions.
I got something. The big thing was the water and the sewer going across the property. Can you put an amendment on there where any upgrades to the water and sewer, they have to share part of that cost?
What is that
Because-
special?
No, I think it's a bit of a misunderstanding. Staff's perspective is the site is already served by a water and sewer line, which is to maximize the investment of paying for the water and sewer line in the street right of ways to have a building that can hook into those and use it. When you start removing buildings and putting in parking lots, that can possibly encourage building on the outskirts of town, on the edge of the city, which requires more investment in additional water and sewer lines. So there's no issue the water and sewer lines are actually in the street. They're in Topeka or Lincoln, so there's actually no issue with
Just
water
not
and sewer
getting
line. Right,
reimbursed from use.
right.
But
There
the
used to be-
Child Advocacy Center's probably using enough.
So the water line goes through here, and there is an easement, so if there needed to be some type of update or a water leak fix or something, they'll still have access to do that.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not-
there's no conflict with the parking lot going in and having to have an agreement to get to the
It's
water
just
and
the
sewer line.
three possible lots that if they were homeowners or businesses,
Right,
that they're not gonna get sewer bills and water bills and.
We do have a question from Jan online. If this were to be developed as parking, could it be also utilized for parking for large events at Lincoln Park and the Fire Museum?
I would imagine that for working hours, they would probably want to restrict it to the center, but I would say that they would be willing to, very agreeable to allow parking, extra parking to events that happen in the evening. Or, weekends.
The Child Advocacy Center does work with the neighboring movement and other organizations in that area that offer space and parking, so.
So there you go, it'll just happen.
Well, that's kind of a dead area. And because people wanted to put that arena on the north side of the highway, if they would have put it on the south side of the highway, that would have all. It would be utilized more and be brought up, but it's a dead area and I don't see anything changing that.
We got some things going there. We'll chat, I can chat about that a little after.
Yeah.
In the meeting as well.
Is Grace Smith right there in for you too?
Just one minute.
Is Grace Smith right there in for you, that same building?
I don't know, actually. The answer to that. I don't think so. It's not a part of the same structure. It might be on the other side.
I think there's another building just south of that.
It could be
I
there.
kind of
I'm not
visualize,
sure.
I can't.
1233 South Emporia, so yeah, it's.
So it's just a little bit south of that.
There's quite a bit of traffic with that too.
I would say.
There's no plan for entrances and exits yet?
Yeah, there, well,
You mentioned getting out onto Topeka?
when you go back to that side plan,
Yeah,
leaving,
on
Yeah,
there.
the access they would go south on Topeka, turn into the parking lot and go
Right.
straight through to the alley.
To the alley, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
So it would be a one-way parking lot.
Topeka here is a one-way street.
Yeah.
And so they would come in right here and then they would go out. The alley. And our site plan is really just kind of a rough draft. It's definitely not the final say. It was just something that, was thrown together real quick to kind of show the idea. And it will be landscaped. You see these little dots or, bushes, hedges, trees. It'll be landscaped to what the city requires and all of that. We just, obviously want to do it right.
Will you
It'll be a
be-
nice looking parking
Will
lot.
you be using those city, hookups? To do the watering? I mean, you probably have to, right?
I would imagine.
If there's a water meter on this, I think.
Yeah, a sprinkler system probably would, irrigation would go in to maintain where we have to have, I'm not sure how much of one, there probably is a couple drip systems around the edge, because the parking lot's gonna be pretty, take up most of the lot, but. I'm pretty sure there's already an entrance here, and they'll have to cut in, I think, on this side. Yes.
The alley, will you guys maintain the alley with the extra traffic?
Paved alley, I don't know the responsibility of that.
It is paved?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a paved alley.
Okay, never mind. I see.
My gut is.
Are you all ready for discussion?
Yeah, we're ready for
Alright,
discussion.
So Mike, do you wanna pull it back to the board for discussion and?
Thank you for your time.
And I still like a point of clarity. If it's in the paperwork denied, but it hadn't went to the planning commission yet, who denied it?
So it's a staff recommendation of denial.
Doesn't that put us in a position where we could table it until they?
Not necessarily,
Commission?
so even if staff has a recommendation for denial, this board as well as the planning commission can either accept staff's recommendation to deny it. You can make a recommendation to approve it, and the planning commission will also take our recommendation into consideration. They could recommend denial or they could recommend approval. Your recommendation and their recommendation are the ones that move on to city council.
Okay, open discussion.
I mean, my feeling is I don't find the arguments for city, at least the two that weighed on me, compelling enough to deny it. The existence of the infrastructure there, maybe it's a loss of revenue, and yes, it doesn't technically meet a maximization of those resources. But the cause, I think, outweighs any loss of possibility for that, which is surrounded by parking lots and whatnot. And the other one was, that it would somehow encourage people to develop around outside of the city. And I don't know if that became the de facto rule. But I don't think there's anything preventing people from doing that. That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
So I don't find that very compelling either.
Anybody else?
I think
Go
we should
ahead.
approve.
Have an opinion?
Not really.
You're ready.
I mean, I would make the motion that it be approved.
We need a second.
Second the motion.
Second. Motion been made and second. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Hold on, Janet, what's your vote?
You're muted.
Maybe they're having audio problems. She's been.
Nope, I got it. I approve. Agree.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Finding
Philip.
one for you guys.
It's good. Do it.
Thank you guys so much.
Pay your water bill.
One time.
Okay. That's my place. Board agendas. So that means we throw it open to Mike, and that's when you have the opportunity to get up and cookie.
Yeah, that. Let's see if I can stall and make this a longest dad meeting. Next to the longest.
I will.
Never mind. Never mind.
I wanna be here.
Thank you for your enduring
Yeah.
counsel, because I watched most of it. Sent her text messages and she's going, oh my. I did take a lunch break though. I'm not sure you did, but I did.
10-minute lunch break.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. It was shoveling them down the sand.
Why, what are you talking?
Well, it was the second longest meeting in Wichita's history. The second longest meeting in the last 3 months. We were 4 minutes away from breaking the record. I had thought about reading off the Declaration of Independence or something
Yeah.
for 5 minutes just to hit that record, but I think the rest of council would have murdered me for that one, so.
Well, thank you for hanging in there.
Yes, ma'am.
It was appreciated.
It's my job.
Mike, what was, why was it so long?
We had a number of issues. One of the big things that we were looking at is the allocation of the final ARPA funds. ARPA funding needs to be allocated by the end of this calendar year and spent by the end of 2026. There's a couple of programs out there that we pulled money back in from. There was a couple of projects that we had been working on to try and get some things done, including one on South Broadway here that did not happen the way we wanted it to. So extra money did come open. And we were discussing some things to look into towards spending this money. And it turned into a good debate about, differing thoughts on what government's real role is. And so a number of the issues that we talked about, one got the meeting started off early was Portland Loops, which these are kind of outdoor bathrooms. We have doors that cover it. You can see on the top and bottom, they're about $250,000 each. Now, we have complaints coming in all the time from downtown especially, about people not having access to this stuff, about having to clean urine and feces because people are using alleyways or right next to buildings, right next to businesses. So Council or Vice Mayor Ballard has been working on this for some time. We actually got the funding passed, or not the funding, we actually had it passed to where we would want to use these to address some of the issues about 2 years ago. And it just now came to where it was time to purchase these. And so the money came up, again, differing opinions on this. We actually passed this last year under a different council, so newer council members have some issues. So we discussed that one for quite a while. We ended up passing that. I believe that one was 4-3 for that one. Again, it's things that we took for granted when we were younger. We had bathrooms at parks, we had water fountains.
At the woods.
Yes, I mean, things were a lot different growing up, and this is kind of trying to pivot back to that. And just address many of the issues that we do have going on in the community. Again, I'm not a downtown guy, I'm not I'm fighting for my district most of the time, but then when I hear people from downtown who are like, we need this with the
So
population.
where are they
that's
gonna
going on."
go?
One is at A Price Woodard Park, so that's pretty close to Century 2, and the other one at Nat Park, which, during community events, big community events, we'll bring porta potties out there. But there's we have places for dogs to go to the bathroom at NASCAR Park. We don't have places for human beings to go to the bathroom at NASCAR Park. And again, this is trying to be sensitive to the reason that we have many of the bathrooms closed, like at Lincoln Park, a number of our parks, because of vandalism, because of just some bad things that go on in these bathrooms. So again, you have an opening down here, you have an opening up here. You can tell if bad things are going on. If we have to clean this up, it's simply hosing it down. It's a metal structure.
These are public, so anybody can use it.
Anybody can use.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and I think $20,000 for some watering stations along downtown too. Again, it's
For anyone.
water, it's basic, like.
You don't have to be scared of the camera.
So that was one of the issues. Another one was, the allocation of extra funding to our violence interrupters program. I've talked to this, with you guys before. We allocated $1.5 million earlier, last year towards this program. And these are people who grew up in situations around gang violence. Some of them joined gangs themselves. There was a lot of violence going on. They recanted. Some of the people working with this program are even Christian ministers nowadays. Not saying I'm weighing in on any religion right there, but that's just the people who have gone through this before and they really want to get in there and help the younger people now avoid the same mistakes that they made. So we allocated $1.5 million, and that would take it to early next year. And this program really just got stood up and going a couple of months ago. They've been helping out before. We had the Unity in the Community March in Plainview. Not biased here, ours was the best event out of all of the Unity marches so far. I was really proud of the way Plainview showed up and a lot of our firefighters, police officers, and people around the community. But they were out there handing flyers out before they were getting paid, before any of this, just to show their involvement and in the community. So there's 2 districts in Wichita, one in Northeast Wichita and one in our district, South City and Plainview. This was decided mostly by statistics, crime statistics, where the hot spots are. I'm getting tired of seeing 13, 14-year-olds get shot. I'm tired of seeing this violence escalate. We need to be doing something. So we had extra money, and so we're discussing another $1.6 million to get them through 2026. Some of the early results we've seen with this, they've actually gotten 2 rival gangs to sit down in the same room with each other. Most of them were shaking each other's hands. I can't get too much into details. Most of a lot of the issues that we have are actually with the gang members' parents. So they expanded on that thing. They're talking to people. They're not just addressing violence. They're also directing people to mental health services. They're directing people to all sorts of resources around the city, around our community, that these people, usually low-income people, can find to help address not just violence, but all sorts of issues. They are doing great work. This program is administered by Wichita State and Cure Violence, which is a national group. They have results in a lot of different communities around the country. I think even around the world. They have a couple overseas as well. And as they choose focus areas, because they treat violence like a health issue, like an epidemic. So we're gonna focus where it is, and that's why it's called Cure Violence. Like I said, great preliminary results. We actually had a workshop, I think in October, beginning of October. I would recommend going back to the YouTube city page and checking it out because they were up there talking about the things that they were doing in the community. And just the interactions they've had so far in the couple of months that they've had this. Eventually, we're not gonna be able to fund this, right? The government, it's tough to fund that. They are looking, and they already have been reaching out and trying to fundraise on their own, and they've had some successes so far. And then they're gonna continue. They know that the government cannot continue to fund this, or not in a major way like we are currently with the ARPA fund, because the ARPA funding runs out. So we had extra ARPA funding. We have $32 million in our reserve. A big chunk of that came last year. We're trying to always be fiscally conservative, or not fiscally responsive. That's what we really want to look at, is fiscal responsibility. So and after a long debate, and again, this is a public safety issue. I grew up right across over here. This is where the target area is, and I brought this up during the meeting yesterday. The Hoheisel family wagon, our van that we had growing up with all the dang Hoheisel boys we had bullet holes in the side of that because of drive-bys in the neighborhood. We used to joke and, hey, those are air holes. They make the car go faster, you know, it's aerodynamic, but it's never lost on me that that bullet could have hit one of my younger siblings. And I also brought it up yesterday, and I've talked about this before, the 1-year-old child we lost. Because of idiot violence, people not understanding how to deal with their emotions, not having an understanding how to deal with conflict. If you're around this your whole life, that's how you deal with it. It's real hard to break that cycle, and that's what this group is doing. And I remember that every birthday my son has, every Halloween, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, because they were the same age. I'm never gonna be able to get that out of my head. And maybe if that individual who pulled that trigger would have had something like this years ago, that death may not have happened. So this is about being proactive. So we had a long, hard meeting, discussion on this one. This is public safety. That's my interpretation of it. Others might have different opinions on it. The ones who were opposing this, they wanted to put it into infrastructure. I appreciate that. They wanted to put it into a fire storage system, which is already in the CIP and already will be passed and paid for. And also some other things, fire apparatus, which again is in the CIP and is ordered and will be paid for. But they wanted to do that to avoid more debt down the line. Just being fair about what their thought process is with this. So that was about 2.5 hours, I believe, discussion and going back and forth on this one. A number of people from the community got up there and spoke about it. And then we ended up passed 4-3.
Did the public speak pro and con? No?
Nobody spoke con. Everybody who was there spoke pro, highly of this program, and not most of them were people who were involved in this program. We had a mother there who lost one son to gang violence, or I don't even know if it was gang violence or violence. And she has a couple of other sons that she's worried about. Just people who work in these areas all around the city, talking about just their experience with it overall and what they wish they had these programs too. Rich?
That's all good, and I'm for it. But we gotta go way back to grade school. Because right now, a kid can walk out that door and walk down to Pawnee and Seneca, and you can't touch him to pull him back in.
Yep.
And that is wrong. There is no consequences to the kids nowadays when they screw up. So when I went to school, we had gun clubs, and they taught you guns and worked with you on guns. And now it's old taboo. No, can't do that. But we got to go back to the grade schools and teach respect. and manners and morals and scruples, for lack of better words.
I will give you Knock Bong's number and email address. He's our school board representative. I agree with a lot of what you say, and one of your points there about you got to start early.
Yeah.
This is what they are trying to do too. They are in schools. They go to football games, high school football games. They have these bright orange shirts, so they are seen and people know who they are. Again, they're getting into Plainview, they're getting into South City, they're getting into Northeast Wichita, a lot of places that, quite frankly, when a lot of people say public safety, they think more police officers, higher wages, all this. These people are going into places that police officers cannot. And it's not because the police do not care about this, it's because when they see the badge, they claim, you're not here to help me. If it's somebody who's gone through this process before, knows how they think, that's a little different. That's street cred, I guess, from what the kids say nowadays. And so it's, again, that was a major point of contention, major issue that we batted around with. I hope I'm doing justice to the opposite side too. I want to be impartial and talk about it, but it's always easier for me to talk about my experiences and my thoughts with this program. So that was another major one. We had some housing issues to talk about. A lot of it was housing. A couple of zoning cases, a hearing. This time of year, there's a lot of wrap up going on. And so we have like the longer meetings. And next week, we're going to be in Tampa for the National League of Cities. So the week after that is our evening meeting for this quarter. And I think we're talking downtown parking for, so, and again, the reminder, I voted against the parking plan. So just saying that, yeah, Mike.
What is considered reasonable housing rent? What level of money is it? Because remember last meeting or maybe 2 meetings, and we voted down that duplex there on Lincoln, and the gentleman representing the housing was saying $1,200 a month. See, that sounds high to me for reasonable housing. What is there a range?
Yeah, there's state standards, and when people or developers apply for low income tax credits for projects, they have to fit within, it's like 80% of the median, the average income for a household. So a lot of the affordable housing is also determined by the income you make. There is a range there, and I think HUD does it, and it's more dependent on zip codes. They do it, I think, zip code by zip code. We recently changed how we didn't personally do it. HUD did it, and then we had to adopt it in order to continue receiving HUD funds for adjusting some of our housing choice vouchers by zip code. So that way it more matches the affordable housing in that zip code. So it varies by zip code, but there is a HUD standard as far as meeting in that range.
What's the income in those certain areas, like 67218?
Income and price and housing prices.
I can answer his question. A 3-bedroom, 1-bath house will go from $1,000 to $1,500 a month, depending on where and when and everything. It goes up from there. If you got a basement, there's people paying $2,000 a month. And so it takes 2 working people in that to make it. People say, how do you keep tenants for 15 years? When you move in, that's probably what you're gonna be paying as long as you're with me. When you move out, I'll update it and I'll raise my rent. So I got people in a 3-bedroom house paying $600 a month, so.
Richard, as soon as my wife wises up and boots me to the curb, I'm gonna talk to you about finding a place to stay.
But
That's very noble of you. Not many landlords do that.
I got the half a block down from one I charged. I got a 600 to 550 there and another 600, but I got one that Section 8 that is paying $875.
Well, that sounds reasonable, but $1,200 for what they wanted to build at that corner didn't sound like affordable housing.
It's nuts. I mean, I don't know how people can do it.
When did it happen? 2008? Is that when things turned around?
No, I think it actually started turning around the COVID time.
Yeah,
I mean, two
And
thousand.
it was before, but that's when it really hit.
the house across the street from me is a 2-bedroom tiny thing, and they said they rent it for $1,500.
And you look at the building materials now. We went and service calls, I went from a $50 service call to now it's $125. It's gotta be paid somewhere. Plywood's $25 a sheet where it used to be 10.
Well, explain to me, if you're in the housing business, why the insurance company says it'll cost $145,000 to $150,000 to replace your home at current prices, but the county only values it at $90,000. Why is there such a difference in those figures?
Because of building replacement costs.
Yeah. You don't wanna pay any more taxes, just be quiet.
Yeah.
We got Jim Howe's number, I will give that to you.
And you can figure about a 10% rule. If it costs you $150,000 to insure it, it's worth about $1,500 a month.
We were late getting back to Kansas, and I'm older, and we still owe money on our mortgage. But every time we had an incident where the mortgage rate dropped, I refinanced. I'm only paying 3.25%.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not great, but it's better than a lot of things that are happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta be,
I remember paying 10% for some of my rentals back in the day.
well, I got off subject, I'm sorry.
A few other things we have coming down the pipeline. There's a number of things to talk about on South Broadway that will be popping up. Not only the firefighters memorial park at Lincoln Park. I talked to two different people, two different developers, one of them who acquired the Marjorie recently and are looking to maybe do a project with that. And then another one who acquired the old Christian Faith Center on South Broadway, the big church there, just north of Lincoln, and the church off of Topeka just behind there. And they're also exploring affordable housing going into those buildings as well. And I think the neighboring movement, they're doing some good things right at that corner. And they might have some other news coming down the pipeline as well. So it's been a project, but Aaron Basham has done a lot of investment right there in that corner, working with the neighboring movement and some other groups. And that's really started a lot of interest coming in to focus on South Broadway as the next project, the next Delano, the next Nomar, the next place that we're going to really focus on and try and get some good development and not gentrify the neighborhood, not pull people out, but just community investment in these areas. So there's going to be some good news coming, I promise you. Speed of government, we've been working on this word a little while now, but yeah, speed of government sucks. So I understand that one. The Child Advocacy Center came up earlier today with the zoning case. I didn't want to speak about anything that they have going on before to influence any vote. I fully recommend you guys go and take a tour sometime. We're just say you're from the DAB or from the district. They got a lot of great things going on, and it's really sobering. They have one room where they have backpacks and toys for kids that are going through this, and of course, a lot of the kids are lower income as well, and just hearing the stories of what they have to face. The officers who work up there at the Child Advocacy Center, child crimes, that's a tough job for them to take too. I mean, that's stuff that sticks with you as well. So they got a lot of great things going. We did allocate $2 million and county matched it as well to help them with this expansion. Mostly for services. It's not that child crimes are up. And this is after the pandemic, has a lot to do with it. People were staying home. A lot more stuff happened. And this is one way that we deal with it, but this isn't the only way that we're trying to deal with a lot of this abuse. Again, you gotta be proactive. You gotta get into these neighborhoods and these relationships ahead of time. You gotta teach people respect from, kindergarten on. So, this is a big part of also trying to deal with the issues as well. Paul Davis, we're thinking of him. He had surgery here recently. That's why he's not here tonight. Always, think of our fellow DAB members. We might argue, we might go back and forth and butt heads and everything, but that's South Wichita, right? I mean, that's what we do. So, but yeah, so I was looking out for our fellow DAB members and our fellow, community members. And, so thinking of Paul tonight and wishing him a speedy recovery. And then two more things real quick.
Is he at home or in the hospital?
He's at home, I believe.
He's at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just a little immobile.
We did put $2 million a year into, concrete street rehabilitation into neighborhoods. So we're having a discussion right now. Do we focus on do we do it proportional to how many concrete streets you have in the district, or are we gonna do the list of worst to first? Surprisingly, on the list of the lowest rated roads, most of that's in northeast Wichita. Some of it is in South Wichita, not in our district though. So we are having this conversation, but again, we pulled this money in. We've talked about it before, just how much more expensive it is to do road work in our district since we're all concrete roads, as opposed to East Wichita, West Wichita, where it's mostly asphalt roads. Especially with the better drainage, planning that they have in East Wichita, and West Wichita than we had down here in South Wichita. That has a major impact on our roads. So we're having that discussion, but we did put, again, $2 million more. From the early estimates I saw, that's about 15 or so neighborhood roads that we can get to every year. So, irregardless, this is going to pay off for us in the long run because we have a number of these roads. So we're pulling more money into our district than we had previously, especially proportionate to the rest of the city.
Why don't they, I made this suggestion when they was talking about that. Hit the homeowners, not for 20% or whatever their cut would be, but hit them for $500. There's not, anybody that lives on a dirt road wouldn't pay $500 to have an asphalt road.
Well, this isn't dirt road. These are road rehabilitation. So this is
Where they at with the
my
dirt
street.
road modifications?
We're still doing the dirt road modifications. Those are, we're still focusing around the schools right now.
Yeah.
So, we'll keep that going.
Yeah.
We had a recent change with the new council. Now we gotta get like 80% of the people who live along those dirt roads, residents, not owners. Their signatures are okay to pave the road. I plan on, I mean, it's 2028 when that'll start kicking in, because it's after we get done with the schools. If I'm here, hey, we're gonna pave your road, sign this petition here. So that's my plan. If I'm not here in this job, whoever the council member is, you get on them, you tell them to get out knocking doors and making sure that we pave all the dirt roads we can. And then the last thing that came up earlier, Trees ICT Trees, it's a local group. They do a lot of botany. They go out and they're trying to save trees, they're trying to plant more trees. It's a good group. They do once a year a tree walk, at least once a year. And so they will be out at Clap Park, just at the clubhouse this Saturday, I'm sorry, from starting at 10 o'clock. I'm gonna be there for opening remarks, and then after that, I'm going to the Veterans Day Parade. But they will be walking around talking about the different trees there, the population of trees, what trees are more drought resistant, what trees we should focus on more in our parks and whatnot.
Maybe what trees need to be replaced. They're showing signs of illness. We could get a jump on it and start growing.
Age, yeah. Okay, along that line, we are having a policy discussion right now about, we saved some money this year due to mowing, because we didn't have to mow as much or pay contractors to mow as much due to the drought. So we are having a policy discussion about taking that money and possibly investing the savings that we had there and attacking dead tree removal, because we are 2 years behind on dead tree removal. Giving us a shot in the arm. I think it's the estimate is like 25 to 30% of the dead trees we could catch up on with this one-time allocation of funding. So we are having that policy discussion as well. You just tipped it off right
Well,
now.
and that, could we not also advocate that as a health issue? A tree falling on a person or
Health and safety.
or on a person's home,
Yeah,
especially in our area.
And I think the idea is we're taking like I think it's maybe 9 square miles where we can really focus and have the contractors go up and down the
Or
streets.
just very methodically,
Yeah.
instead of one-off.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a grant, District 1 had a grant for, I think every year they have a grant for tree care.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where the target location is yet. Even if it's not in our, it might be in our neighborhood, our district. Even if it's not, it's gonna catch us up to where,
Have they ever done it before in Wichita?
not that I know of.
That would be great to do
Yeah.
that, see how effective that is.
Yeah.
Get that work into our corporation too, because that's killing us.
Yeah.
Every time the wind blows, it's just a matter of time before one falls on a house, hurts somebody.
Yeah,
Just
for sure.
numerous.
I should ask. Thank you for that, cause
We have several.
I mean, these are,
A lot.
That's a good idea, Jerry.
these are
You know,
city.
the other thing too is maybe you guys, there are people that sell firewood. And maybe they can, instead of just sending it to
We're discussing that too,
Right,
like
yeah.
mulch or
mulch
what.
or just putting it into use somehow or
Right.
selling it to, I don't know.
I can
Yeah,
tell, I can tell you how Asplin used to do it, they still do it. They cut the tree and they cut it to firewood length, and they'd leave it sit there for 2 or 3 days. And then their trucker would come by and load everything up. It was free firewood.
Yeah, people will come and take that right away.
Yeah.
It would save you even more and allow you to cut more trees.
They hold
Cut it
the
up,
brush.
Put them on the
They do the
curb.
smaller pieces, you still got the stumps that's big.
And it had the stump, right? Still, in regards to that, it is dead trees on the public easement, so it's public city dead trees.
Right.
But that's a good, I will look into that and seeing if there's a way to,
We actually have them inside the fence in our corporation. It's inside the fence, it's the owner's responsibility to take care of them. It's still $2,000 a pop every
Right.
time a tree falls.
Yeah.
We have them in the common area and they fall in a house, it's $2,000 plus the damage it's gonna cost. One, God forbid somebody gets hurt, it's gonna be, it's if not when.
Right.
So.
so I'll look into that and see maybe if there's a chance to maybe collaborate to where, okay, we'll maybe charge the cost that it would be since they're already out.
That'd be
You know,
great.
so I'll look into that. I can't promise you anything, but I will look. into
There was one-
Anything you can do to help us is great. Was
Yeah.
talking about the low cost income right now. We just voted to increase our dues by a lot because we're in a hole and even our budget's not gonna bring us up to where we need to be. I voted against it because it's inadequate. But we have to pay our employees. We have a lot of expenses and we just don't have the money to do it. It's gonna come from the people that live there. And some of them we may cost them rent another house.
Right. I hear
So I don't know what to do. You can ask Dave, he's on our board as well. It's really frustrating.
you. I hear you.
So if something's gotta be done or the whole thing's gonna collapse.
How do you raise money?
We have one general fund that comes from
Maintenance
association fees. If you're a member, you pay a fee to live there every month. And that's the only income we have.
Do you use Dylan's program?
The what program?
Dylan's?
What do you mean?
Well, in our association and Dylan's will,
No, we're separate from that. We're a corporation. We're privately owned. And they don't allow us, we don't fit any of the criteria. Any of it.
Will typically, give $30 a quarter.
or more.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I'm giving. It's $30.
Getting or giving?
Giving by shopping at Dillon's. They will take and give my community reward, and it's $30 typically.
Hmm.
It's $8 a quarter.
We've done quite well with it. We got a large neighborhood with Grandview.
We have 400 units, so we have 20 that are empty right now. And just that $300 we're not collecting a month, plus $100 a month utilities we're losing. It's just,
Yeah. Well, we have about 1,500 with middle large. No, 1,100.
those are homeowners. We're shared ownership.
How that work?
We have that, we have to pay employees, monitor, take care of everything.
Yeah.
Tax insurance.
You guys have had, any other questions or comments from you guys, or? I will say, Becca, her birthday will be near the end of this month. So
Happy
happy birthday, Becca. 27's a horrible year, you know.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
28's gonna be.
yeah, Yates, yeah.
Hard wait to be 28.
Means you're another year over.
Yeah, but again, appreciate everything you do. You show up early, set up the tables, stay afterwards, celebrate. I mean, she works twice as hard as I think I work pretty hard for a council member, but she's twice the person I am. So we appreciate everything you do and especially putting up with our lot, right? Aside from that, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It'll be a month before I see many of you. I wish you safe travels, a safe and happy holiday season. You want to come join the Hoheisel family Thanksgiving, drop me a line. We have people in and out all the time. Make sure everybody has a spot to go to where you guys are loved and treasured and appreciated. And my family's definitely one of those who will see that with you guys. But aside from that, we'll see you guys in December, and everybody please stay safe and let's keep moving and making our district better.
Oh, you wrote it,
Saturday.
congratulations.
And then you pray too.
The
Yeah.
Veterans Day Parade is this Saturday downtown at noon, I think is when it starts.
Was that at one hour?
No, I think outside City Hall. Kind of.
Yeah, it's usually.
So we need a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
So moved.
Your newsletter.
Second, anybody want a second? All in favor of closing?
Hi. It's on your newsletter.
I think so.
Maybe
I
somebody,
get your newsletter.
maybe